Good evening. Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network. I'm your host this evening, Ben Duffy, Sherdog.com senior editor, and I'll be talking a little bit about One Championship Empower, which takes place this Friday. Empower is One Championship's first all-women's card, so it's a bit of a momentous step for the promotion, and just as importantly, it impacts several of their women's divisions directly and immediately. So we're going to cover some of what's going on this card, how we got here, why it matters, and kind of what comes up next. The card itself, it's going down, like I said, Friday at Singapore Indoor Arena in Kallang. That is one of One Championship's de facto home bases. They're there a lot. It's this Friday at 7:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 Pacific Time, and please keep in mind that is 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 a.m. Pacific Time. Welcome to Singapore time, which is 12 hours ahead of the United States East Coast, 13 hours ahead of me here on Texas Standard Time. So if you want to check out this card, don't start looking for it in the afternoon. It's a morning card. It streams to Bleacher Report and Bleacher Report Live, free of charge. So pretty easy to check out if you've got a computer. This had been scheduled for May. It was bumped due to COVID precautions. It's now taking place in September. It's a 9-fight card. There are 7 MMA bouts, 1 kickboxing bout, and 1 Muay Thai bout. In speaking tonight, I'm going to assume that some of you are already very familiar with One Championship, their practices, how their promotion is structured, but there will be others of you who may not be as familiar. So first thing I'll say is having MMA, kickboxing, and Muay Thai on the same card is very much a One Championship trademark. It is something I wish more promotions would do. I always enjoy it. I've also seen just straight ahead Western boxing on One Championship cards, and yeah, it's how I get a lot of my kickboxing and Muay Thai. I'm more of an MMA guy. The MMA bouts include a strawweight title fight between Xiong Jingnan and Michelle Nicolini. We'll talk about that more in depth later, but the bulk of it is the quarterfinals of One Championship's new Atomweight Grand Prix, as well as a 5th match, which will be the alternates match. So, 5 of the 7 MMA bouts are connected to that Atomweight Grand Prix. The Atomweight Grand Prix is taking place because One Championship Atomweight title holder Angela Lee had a baby. I believe she had her baby in April. Congratulations. So she's on the shelf. One Championship, rather than put the belt on the shelf as well or name an interim champ, as a lot of other promotions would do, instead they threw together a Grand Prix to have a challenger locked, loaded, and ready to go once Lee is ready to return. I love that. Just as a guy who came up with, Pride, Strikeforce, a lot of other promotions of the early 2000s, I love a Grand Prix. I love tournaments. They have a way of making making regular bouts seem extraordinary, seem more important, because you know what the implications are. You know exactly what they're fighting for. Think of the proportion of people who tune in for March Madness as opposed to people who watch regular season basketball games. That's the mystical power of a tournament. Just instantly the stakes feel higher. What I'll say is this is not just any tournament field either. One Championship did pack this one with an impressive mix of their established veterans, some of their homegrown up-and-coming prospects, as well as a absolute whopper of a free agent acquisition. The field, it includes Mei Yamaguchi, again, as a old school follower of Asian promotions. Definitely good to see her still plying her trade at age 38. But Stamp Fairtex, who is definitely someone that One Championship is, pushing to do well in MMA as well as Muay Thai, obviously. She's in the field. Denise Ambawanga, undefeated prospect, is coming up. And this will be the One Championship debut of Seo-hee Ham. Hamderlei Silva, the longtime Korean atomweight / strawweight, is debuting with one championship. And I will say this, if your familiarity with Seo Hee-ham is limited to her, I think, 1-3 run in the UFC, where you saw her fighting people like Joanne Calderwood and Courtney Casey, who were twice her size, you will be in for a treat. They call her Hamderlei Silva for a reason. She is a pathologically aggressive, little woman. I do like that they have her matched up against Zamboanga in the quarterfinals. It reminds me of the welterweight Grand Prix that Bellator put on a couple of years ago, where not only did they load it up with a good mix of their established contenders and undefeated up-and-comers, but they threw together the matchups in a way that showed that they weren't afraid to like crash their toy cars together. Just putting undefeated Neiman Gracie and undefeated Ed Ruth together in the first round, just to give one example. I get the same kind of feel out of this atomweight field, and that's good. It makes me feel as though they're not trying to control the results out of the gate, other than just making sensible matchups. I also do like that of the 10 women that are fighting the 4 quarterfinals in the alternate matchup, 9 of the 10 have not fought Angela Lee yet. The only one who has is Yamaguchi. She's fought her twice. She's lost both times. So while I'm a Vivi fan, almost any other outcome obviously would be better for one championship. And it's very likely that they're going to have a fresh face for her to take on when she returns from maternity leave. As I mentioned, there is a kickboxing and a Muay Thai match on this card. I won't dive too deeply into those. I'm not the guy you want breaking down your kick punching for you, but I will say that you can make a good argument that the highest level fight on the entire card is the kickboxing match between Anissa Meksen and Christina Morales. They're both debuting with one championship, so they're another pair of pretty high profile acquisitions for the promotion. But Morales is, she is a championship level kickboxer. I believe she is a sitting ISKA kickboxing champ. And then Meksen is probably the top pound for pound woman kickboxing right now today. So it's a fantastic matchup. And again, because this is one championship, there's every possibility that we will see one or both of them cross over to Muay Thai or even MMA going forward. So excited for that one. Again, I am not a kickboxing expert, just an appreciator, but I certainly look forward to that one. Having said all that about the kickboxing Muay Thai matches and the beginning of the Atomweight Grand Prix, the main event is also the main attraction. It's Xiong Jingnan versus Michelle Nicolini for Xiong's one championship strawweight title. Again, to those not completely familiar with one championship, when I say strawweight about one championship, I am talking about 125 pounds rather than 115. Their weight classes are structured differently than those of most other promotions. They have their fighters weigh in essentially one weight class heavier than you would expect from the name of the weight class, but then also place hydration requirements on them and give them hydration tests leading up to the fights on the thought that it is healthier for the fighters to fight at something closer to their walking weight. So just understand that when I say strawweight title, Jingnan Xiong and Michelle Nicolini will be weighing in at 125 pounds or less. This title fight, Angela Lee hovers over this as well. Obviously, the entire Atomweight Grand Prix is taking place to come up with her next opponent, but Angela Lee has fought both of these women as well. Nicolini beat Lee, and Xiong has gone 1-1 with her. She beat her at strawweight, lost to her at atomweight. Angela Lee is, she's a very good fighter. She is one of one championship's signature stars. And while I don't know what's going on inside her head, I can't imagine that she isn't going to want to try her hand at strawweight again once she's back and once she deals with whatever challenger comes out of that Grand Prix. So Angela Lee will be a very interested observer in this fight as well. Let's talk a little bit about this title fight. And I will say right off the bat that if you're interested in a more in-depth X's and O's type explanation. My partner on the Sherdog Radio Network, Keith Schillen, the other half of the Schillen and Duffy show, he is more of a straight analyst than I am, and he did release a breakdown of the entire card that's very informative. If you're here with me and you know anything about me, I'm more of a storyteller and dot connector. Let's talk a little bit about who these women are, how they got here, how we got here, what's at stake, and where we go from here. Let's talk about Nicolini first. She is a 39-year-old Brazilian. She is 6-2 as a professional mixed martial artist. She is 4-1 under the banner of One Championship. Fought most recently back in July of 2019, taking a unanimous decision over Angela Lee at One Championship Masters of Destiny. The first thing to say about Michelle Nicolini is I feel as though in the MMA space, whether as fans and oftentimes as media members as well, we are quick to throw around the term world class in talking about the credentials of an athlete coming over from another combat sport. Just, any kickboxer was a world-class kickboxer, any wrestler was a world-class wrestler. If you've been following this sport for any amount of time, you know exactly the cliche that I'm talking about. It is no exaggeration to call Michelle Nicolini a world-class grappler. In fact, she's in the team photo for the greatest grappler of the greatest grapplers of all time. She's an 8-time Mundial's gold medalist, and that includes 1 medal in the absolute division. Always quite the accomplishment for a woman who grappled at around 130 pounds. She's a 3-time finalist at Abu Dhabi Combat Club. She was the 2013 winner at Abu Dhabi. She is a legendary grappler. Her strengths as a fighter, obviously grappling. She's a great grappler, and that did cross over to MMA. She, I believe, Angela Lee was the first woman she beat that wasn't by submission. She's fantastic at top position as well as bottom position grappling. She has the grappler's tendency to be willing to play guard from the bottom, looking for a submission. Hasn't really hurt her too much yet, but she's fantastic at chokes, leg locks, arm bars. Again, you don't win Mundials 8 times without, having the full tool set. She also has, I'm going to say she has a little bit of meanness to her, and I don't mean that in any unsporting way. Like, I'm sure she is a lovely sportsman, but she's not Damian Maia. When she does MMA, even though you can tell she's absolutely a grappler doing MMA, she also understands that she's in a fight. She doesn't mind punching people in the face on the ground. She understands that that's, a way to pass someone's guard or to soften them up for a choke or an armbar is to make them hurt and make them think about how bad their face hurts. So, she's a wonderful grappler, period. She's a wonderful grappler for MMA as well. Her deficiencies, she has several, but they all fall under one big umbrella. She's a grappler doing MMA, and in some ways, she never really, really crossed over in earnest. She was, I don't want to say she was a late bloomer in grappling, but a lot of her greatest accomplishments came after her 30th birthday. She was still having some of her greatest moments in grappling when, people like, say, Mackenzie Dern had already checked out, said, I've done everything I wanted to do in grappling. I'm going to go fight MMA for a while. She had a couple of fights here and there, one-off fights with various promotions, including LFC before it was LFA. But she was almost 35 years old when she signed with One Championship, which is the real first real promotional home she's had. She was almost 35 when she signed with One Championship, and she hasn't really fought more than once or twice a year since then. She hasn't fought at all in 2 years. As I said, her last fight was the Lee fight back in July of 2019. She never really, really crossed over. And I don't want to call her a dabbler or a dilettante. I mean, she's fighting for real. She's 6-2 as a professional mixed martial artist. But I don't think we ever got to see her more than glimpses of her real MMA potential. the way that plays out in the cage or in the ring is that her striking is rudimentary at best. Her striking is a means to an end. It's a means to get her hands on you, because her takedowns tend to be of more the clinch, trip, and throw variety than a classic, American wrestler shot from the outside. So her striking is rudimentary. And at this point, she's 39. So she was 37 last time we saw her fight, and her gas tank was a little bit of a concern then. She did beat Angela Lee, but she kind of had to hang on to do it. Most people's gas tanks don't get better between 37 and 39. I certainly speak for myself in that regard. So I have to imagine that her gas tank will be every bit as much a concern, if not more so. And I can't imagine her striking has improved greatly in that time. So she has a pretty clear and narrow route to victory here. I will say it's a bit of a shame. I would love to have seen what would have happened if she crossed over earlier. But again, her greatest achievement in grappling, the day she won Abu Dhabi, she was, I think, 30 or 31 years old. When she lost at Abu Dhabi to Mackenzie Dern in one of the greatest grappling matches ever, she was like 32 and Dern was like 21, and Dern still crossed over to MMA before she did. And that's part of the reason that her striking is so rudimentary. Like I said, she signed with One Championship, I think like 5 years ago, and has fought sporadically ever since, but she was still grappling for a lot of that. So if you're still going to Sri Lanka for tournaments, and you're still training for another Abu Dhabi, your striking isn't going to advance as much as it might have. So never got to be quite the mixed martial artist she could have been, but the trade-off is, again, she might be the greatest female grappler of all time. She's certainly in the team photo, and even the some of the other women in the photo with her, like Bea Mesquita, Dern, she can hold her record and her accomplishments right up alongside theirs. Having talked about the challenger, let us now turn to talk about the champ. Xiong Jingnan is the One Championship strawweight title holder. She is 33 years old, native of Beijing, China. She is 15-2 overall. She's 6-1 under the banner of One Championship. And the most important thing to know about Xiong Jingnan is that while she doesn't get quite the same shine as some of One Championship's signature stars like Angela Lee, her brother Christian Lee, Ong La, Bibiano Fernandez, you can make a very good argument that she is One Championship's most dominant fighter. She is now the 4-time defending strawweight champ and flies a little under the radar for just how good she is and just what a stamp she's put on that division. She is listed as fighting out of Evolve MMA, which is a sister organization to One Championship, the promotion. She came to prominence fighting out of Phuket Top Team. I don't know if she splits her camps or actually spends her whole camps at Evolve. I'm not privy to that. But, wherever it is she trains, she comes in on the back of a win over Tiffany Teo, defending her title back in October at One Championship inside the Matrix. I said a moment ago, her record is 15-2 overall, 6-1 in One Championship. That doesn't even really tell the whole tale of how good she's been. Of her 2 losses overall, one of them took place back in 2015 in Kunlun fight. She lost to Colleen Schneider. I'm going to be completely honest with you and just say, even as a major tape head, I cannot find that fight. So I can't tell you how she lost to Colleen Schneider, except that it was a unanimous decision. What I can tell you is that Colleen Schneider was twice as experienced as Xiong at the time, and twice her size. I mean, Colleen Schneider fought in Invicta. She's a 5'9" woman. She fought at bantamweight in Invicta, and we're talking about her, fighting Xiong Jingnan. The size difference must have been just glaring. And her loss in One Championship to Angela Lee, for one, that just makes her and Lee 1-1. So it's not as if it's a one-sided rivalry there. But also she lost by submission. But what set up the submission was a slam by Lee that honestly wouldn't have raised any eyebrows if One Championship had disqualified Lee for it. Another unique thing about One Championship's rule set is that suplexes are banned. They are, they're considered a foul. And, there have been a few fighters disqualified for them over the years. And by the eyeball test, I mean, the one that Lee landed on Xiong, certainly could have been actionable. But, neither here nor there. She's 6-1 in One Championship, and she's also beaten the one woman who's beaten her. Talking about her as a fighter, if you've never seen her fight and you're thinking, well, who are some Chinese strawweights that I am familiar with? Maybe you're a UFC fan. Physically, she's closer to Weili Zhang than to Yan Xiaonan. Like Xiong is a powerfully built, muscular tank of a woman, and fights a bit like Zhang as well. She is a solid boxer who can kick, but she prefers to work in close. She throws everything very hard, very, very hard. Plenty of power. I mean, she has 10 TKOs in her 15 career wins, considering that she's basically a strawweight, maybe flyweight, who's spent a lot of her early career fighting up out of her ideal weight class. That's pretty remarkable power. You don't see that much, in those lower weight divisions. I said, her closer to Weili Zhang than to Xiaonan Yan physically. Unfortunately, something that she does have in common with Yan is somewhat deficient takedown defense. She has been taken down in even in her wins. That's been the route where her opponents have had the best success against her, and that's just going to be because she is a striker by training and by preference. She comes from a boxing and Sanda background, so the ground part of it is something that she's having to learn along the way. And then on top of that, like I said, she throws really hard, and someone who kicks really hard maybe overthrows their punches a little bit. They tend to be easier to take down. Because of that, the dynamic in the Nicolini fight is pretty straightforward. Nicolini's best chance to win this, you can argue almost her only chance to win this, is to get Xiong down. If she can get Xiong down, all bets are off. Again, we're talking about one of the greatest grapplers in the world against a woman who has shown herself a little hapless when things go down there. Almost any other outcome really favors Xiong. The fact that this is a title fight and it's going to be a 5-round fight favors Xiong because even though Xiong lost to Angela Lee, by submission, that was in the 5th round. She beat Angela Lee by TKO. That was also in the 5th round. And meanwhile, we're talking about somebody in Nicolini who was having a little bit of cardio issues in the 3rd round against Lee. So not only does Nicolini need to get this to the ground, but the longer the fight goes on, the more it seems to favor the younger, fresher, more MMA-adapted fighter in Xiong. My colleague Keith was leaning towards Xiong by decision. I'm with him. Xiong is far more experienced. She's much younger. She has more routes to victory. But I'd even be willing to say that, if this goes to the 3rd round, the 4th round, 5th round, and Nicolini is not having success trying to get it to the ground, I could see Xiong finishing this. She'll be the fresher woman. Nicolini's takedown attempts are going to get, increasingly desperate, increasingly slow, and I could see Xiong being in the 5th round, maybe finally willing to, hey, I'll go to the ground now, and finishing it with a TKO down there on just kind of an exhausted and beaten Nicolini. That's my prediction. You know, I'm not much of a prognosticator, but that seems like the main chance to me. The question then is where we go from here. And as I said, Angela Lee is going to be a very interested observer of this fight. Again, if Xiong wins, that's a Money in the Bank fight right there. They're 1-1 against each other. You do the rubber match. It has Xiong's strawweight title on the line. Lee, again, I have to imagine her ambitions include being a multi-divisional champion. One Championship likes those. You know, they seem to encourage it. Plenty of fighters have tried. Several have succeeded. If Nicolini wins, aside from the fact that she might be 40 by the time that fight's ready to take place, because again, Lee's first priority is probably going to be to deal with whoever the Atomweight tournament winner is. If Nicolini's still around, they have history as well. Nicolini beat Angela, and it was a close thing. So whoever comes out of this, it lays the groundwork for a pretty interesting matchup going forward. Plenty riding on this. One Championship has put a lot of their eggs in one basket for this card, and I'll be checking it out. You know, if you want to get my attention, hey, give me the opening round of a Grand Prix stocked with interesting fighters. Give me a high-stakes title fight, and give me one of the best kickboxers in the world in a format that's really easy for me to find. That's easy sell. At any rate, that is my pre-fight breakdown of One Championship Empower and its strawweight title fight headliner. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the fights. Once again, One Championship Empower takes place this Friday, September 3rd at Singapore Indoor Arena. It is going to be broadcast on Bleacher Report and Bleacher Report Live. It starts at 4:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Between now and then, enjoy the fights, and thanks for listening.